maximum impact endgame.
Congress shall now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Said bill requests emergency response funding up to and including, I'm sorry, this section is classified. Dollars to prepare.
Welcome to the Metro Record Town Hall. We're having a conversation this evening with City Councilor at Large, Tracy Whitfield, and we'll be talking about the property tax rates. And as usual, no long intro. We just jump right into it. Are you ready to jump right into it?
You know I'm ready, D.
Okay.
All right.
So why don't you do a quick introduction to apprise people of the issue, tell them why we're here, why we're having this conversation, and why people came out tonight.
All right. So as Daryl said, my name is City Councilor Tracy Whitfield. I'm an at-large counselor for Springfield. Been a counselor for about 4.5, almost 5 years now. And so we are here to talk about the tax rate, how it's set. We just want people to understand the background and the implications on how the property tax rates are set for the residential and commercial side, and how they impact the residents of the city of Springfield. And so for the past, let's say week and a half, we've been having discussions. So just to give a little background information, there is a tax committee, and there are 5 individuals that sat on the tax committee this year. It's the Board of Assessor, Peter Greenlee, Wilfredo Lopez was our economist. We had Upper Hill Neighborhood Council member, Ruth Ann Hamilton Stutz, myself, and the Chamber of Commerce president, Springfield Chamber of Commerce president, Diane, and I can't pronounce her last name, or I forgot it right now, but you can look that up on Google. But those were the 5 that sat, and so we discussed which tax factor we're going to choose to set the property tax rate for the residents of the city of Springfield. And so we go through a process where we get all of our information from the assessors and the board chair, and then we make a determination, bring it back to the city council, and then we vote on what we think is the best for the residents of the city of Springfield. For background.
So let's talk about what was so critical at that city council meeting. I know the tax rate, I believe, is $17.05 per $1,000
Yes.
for taxes. Tell folks what exactly does that mean for people when they see it in the paper?
So you have a valuation on your property, and you're going to pay $17 and I think it's 6 cents on the residential side per $1,000. So just basic math, if your property is worth $100,000, then you'll pay $1,700.06. I mean $6. $1,706. So that's just basic math on how you calculate your property tax.
Okay. So what was so significant about that vote? Let's talk about, when I spoke with you the other evening, a few of the councilors were upset about the outcome because of its negative impact on the residents, the property owning residents of the city of Springfield. So
right now we're going to talk a little bit about the commercial side, but we're going to focus on the residential side because you guys are the voters. While some of the residents own businesses here, it's just important to know how it's going to impact you. And so the mayor gave a proposal to use. So there's going to be different factors that we talk about. You might be confused a little bit, but we'll get into it and break it down as best as possible. So the city at the end of the year has certified free cash. That's all the money that came into the city or money that we put toward the budget last year that didn't get spent goes to certified free cash. So that and any lawsuits that we receive goes into free cash. So we had a certified free cash amount of $67 million and I think $800,000. And we got that because $27 million of the free cash was built into last year's budget that we did not spend. And then another 40 million came from a lawsuit from Eversource that they paid us to check. So that's how we came up with the number of $67,800,000 of free cash. So the mayor said, well, out of that $67 million, I'm going to take only $6.5 million and use some money that we had said that we would commit last year, which was $3.5 million, for a total of $10 million to reduce the tax burden to the residents of the city of Springfield. When he said he would do that, We said, oh, that's great. That's wonderful. 10 million to reduce the tax burden. That's a great thing to do. However, I didn't think it was enough, right? Because even with reducing the tax burden for the property tax owners, over 50% is going to pay an average increase on their property tax bill that come out. The first one's going to come out in December. They're going to pay an average of $194 on average of an increase in their property tax bill.
Okay.
What that means is 50% is going to pay $194 on average or more. So you have some property tax owners whose bill is going to be like, because it's based on your property value and it's based on the rate. So you have some property tax owners that's going to have bills of an increase upwards of $500 because it's based on the valuation and it's based on other factors. And then you have some at minimum that will have an average increase of $194. And then on the flip side, the other 50% of the residents or homeowners will see a slight decrease or will not see an increase in their property tax bill at all. That's 50% of homeowners. So I'm saying, okay, we got unprecedented amount of money in the city of Springfield this year. We have $67 million of free cash. Why can't we put another 3.5 million or another 10 million to reduce that burden even further so there isn't an increase? That could have been done also. Brought that proposition back to the mayor and he said no, he wasn't going to do it, period. Let me just tell you guys a little bit about the tax factor now. So this is what the city council votes on. The tax factor sets the tax rate. So there's different tax factors that on this long sheet, probably like, I don't know, 30 or 40 different tax factors that we can choose between to set the tax rate. So this particular tax rate, it did decrease the residential property tax by $1.77 per thousand from last year.
Okay.
And it decreased the commercial side by $2.64 from their commercial property rate from last year. So I said, that doesn't seem fair. Why would the residents only get a decrease of $1.77 on the tax rate and the commercial side would get a decrease of $2.64 cents on the commercial side? Okay. I'm like, that doesn't balance. On top of that, the residential property value skyrocketed, okay? Right. Way more than the commercial side. And so I'm like, this just doesn't all make sense. So I said, well, let's get a tax factor that's more of a balance that will give the residents a decrease of $1.97, and it'll give the commercial side a decrease on last year's tax rate of $1.98.
Okay.
So I said, that's more of a fair balance. There was no tax factor that gave the exact equal amount of a decrease. So, because if that was the case, that's the one I would have chose. I think we should have both got decreases on our tax rate from last year. And so, but I was just trying to find the one that was most fair. And the one that I proposed, the average tax bill without any more free cash being added, the bills would have been on average, it would have been an average increase of $1.51. $151 instead of $194.
Wow.
So I know that's a lot to take in, a lot to absorb.
And it is, because I'm trying to digest it as you speak.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about, your average resident who really doesn't pay attention to the political process.
Yes.
The folks who are struggling to live from, they're living from check to check.
Paycheck to paycheck.
They have their mortgage payment to make. And when your taxes go up, your mortgage payment goes up.
Correct.
So let me ask, let me ask this question. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Is there a concern that the percentage of tax title foreclosures may increase as well at some point?
If individuals like seniors that's on a fixed income,
right,
their income isn't going up at the rate of inflation. So if you go to the grocery store, you can see everything went up. Okay. Gas prices are through the roof. When you go buy clothes, that went up. So everything went up. So if you're a senior and you say, am I going to eat or am I going to pay my property tax? What would you choose? You got to live, right? You got to stay alive. You know, you can't stay alive by paying your property tax. So when you don't pay your property tax, it puts a lien on your property. A lien means like the city now has some ownership. That's called tax title. So now the city has ownership. And then if you don't pay those property taxes over a certain amount of time, they can take your house from you.
Right.
They take your house. That's called tax title foreclosure. And now the city has that property and they can go back and auction it to whoever and make a little bit of money off of it. Not as much as the value is worth, right? Make a little bit of money off of it, and they sold your house for cheaper. Now, the reason that bothers me is because it's not right, number one.
And the homeowner is still stuck with the bank mortgage.
Yes.
I understand that. Okay, but go ahead.
Still stuck. And it bothers me because you have folks that lived in their homes for 30 and 40 years and been paying their taxes for a long time, maybe had to do some type of refinancing to do some property improvement. So now they got a mortgage and they can't afford their property taxes or whatever. And now you can come and just take that property from under their noses because they can't afford to pay their property tax. But they have given to this city of Springfield for 30 or 40 years. I mean, when I was on the campaign trail, I heard this story from seniors in the McKnight neighborhood so much. Those houses are big and beautiful, but their heating costs when heat goes up is through the roof. Now they're going to be warm in the winter. They're going to pay their property tax. You know what I mean? I'm going to choose to be warm so I can live, right? So it's like so many people contribute to the city of Springfield and to the growth and to the development of the city of Springfield, yet a slight increase to their property tax can cause them to lose their homes.
Okay. So in the paper, it says during the special meeting, City Council authorized and established tax rates, which provides relief for residents for the coming fiscal year. And this is although the single family home bill will still climb by at least a minimum of $194. Let me ask you. So in some of the more economically challenged neighborhoods, I mean, is it going to vary from neighborhood to neighborhood? If we look at a 7A, East Forest Park, in contrast to, I don't know, an Old Hill or Bay Area neighborhood.
Yes, it does, because it goes by the value. And the property values are determined by like how many homes were sold in your neighborhood the year before the prior year, how much was the values of those homes. So when I looked at neighborhood to neighborhood data, there's definitely some shifts. Like Brightwood neighborhood, their value used to didn't increase that much, but they sold a lot of properties in 2021 because these values are based on 2021 property sales. They sold a lot of property values, so their values increased a lot in the Brightwood neighborhood. So their property taxes, they're probably going to see way more than $1.94 of an increase in their property tax bill. Whereas like the Old Hill neighborhood, they didn't see as many sales in that neighborhood, or the value wasn't as much. So their bills may go down a little bit, or it'll be like even. But East Forest Park, they'll probably see an increase. Forest Park will see a sizable increase. 16 acres will see a sizable increase. Liberty Heights, East Springfield neighborhoods will see a sizable increase. So some of those communities will see sizable increases in their property tax bill.
Wow.
However, I'm not talking about all Mason Square. I said Old Hill.
Old Hill.
Now you have some areas in Mason Square that will also see considerable increases.
Right. The homes up near Springfield College.
Yep.
You have the McKnight district. If you live in any of those old historical homes, especially since there's been a lot of folks coming back and buying those. So that's going to be interesting. I know where I live. I live right on the cuff of 16 acres and Pine Point. I know our taxes have, oh my God, it's increased significantly over the last 8 years to the point where my tax payment is almost as much as my mortgage payment.
Yeah. Think about Pine Point.
Right.
Where they got new development. See all them new houses that they built in that little cul-de-sac area and stuff. All that affects the Pine Point neighborhood property tax value. So that means their property tax values are going to go up. Their bills.
Should my neighbors be concerned? They just built this big, beautiful 5-bedroom home. Deck, phenomenal. Everything inside there, we've seen them bring it into the house, just out of this world. I guess the new owners paid about $450 for that.
So your whole neighborhood,
my property value?
Of course it is.
Does that mean I'm going to pay more in taxes?
Of course it does. Yeah.
I knew it. I just had to hear it. I had to hear it out loud.
Of course it does. Yeah. That's how they determine the valuation of the properties in your neighborhood. There's no way that they can walk around every single house in the city of Springfield and determine what the actual value is. So they use a calculation to determine it. And it is based on the values of properties that were sold, if you had additions and any type of improvements to the homes and other factors. I'm not an assessor, so I don't know all the factors, but I know that value is one.
When I worked for the mayor's office, they would tell us to tell constituents it had nothing to do with the mayor's tax rate plan proposal. Their tax increases were based on their market value, and that's based on what is it, the Massachusetts Realty Association or something like that.
Something like that.
I'm not familiar with,
or
but that was our whatever it was at the time. That was our automatic response to people. Like, it's not so much what the mayor is recommending, because I'm looking at the news heading for November 28th. It says Mayor Sarno and Board of Assessors announced recommendations for a significant lower tax rate. So if I'm Joe Public and I'm reading this article, I'm going, oh, great. My taxes are going to go down. I'm going to be good. Is that what's going to happen? I know they're using 10 million of the 67 million free cash. So I heard everything you had to say before, but I'm still trying to process, because I know I got a mortgage payment to make. Actually, this week, just like a whole lot of other people. So when I read this article and I hear the mayor says the following. And again, it says our residents are feeling the effects of inflation, which we are. And the increases in price, such as the cost of buying groceries, all this has a negative effect on our residents' quality of life. I strongly believe that this significantly lower tax rate, especially for our residential rate, will provide much needed relief for our residents. With this lower residential tax rate and the 10 million I have committed to offset the tax levy, 6.5 million from the Eversource settlement and 3.5 million I previously committed, the average single-family tax bill, which was set to increase by $575, will now be approximately $194, a $381 increase. This strategic and physically prudent measure is all about the quality of life. Should I read this and be excited? Because it sounds like, wow.
The mayor's saying, we gave you guys a discount on the increase. That's all he said. It was going to be an increase of 500. Now it's going to be an increase of 2. Say thank you, Mr. Mayor. Because I gave $10 million to get there. Well, Mr. Mayor, you could have gave 15 million to get it to 0. So no, that's just like, we got to stop looking at his press releases as the gospel. You got to read between the lines of what they're saying. That's why he didn't say increase twice. When he talked about the 500,000, he said the average tax bill was going to increase by $565, right? But when he got to the 194, it just says of only $94. It didn't mention increase again. It's still going to be an increase of an average 194, but some people will see an increase of about $500 or more.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's an increase either way. We are in a position that we could have had a 0 increase. It's an unprecedented time. We have never in the history of the city of Springfield had $67 million of free cash. Now, on the flip side, they're going to say, yeah, but if we give that 10 million or 20 million this year, we're not going to have 20 million next year to give. That could be true, or we might have it. You know, we've been having good amounts of free cash since I've been on the council and since I've worked for finance. So that's been since 2014.
Okay.
We've been having good amounts of free cash where we can reduce the property tax bill, but that's not even the only money that comes into the city. We got MGM money. We just have other funds. And MGM money, by the way, they said they were going to use to reduce property tax rate and haven't done it yet.
That is correct.
Haven't done it yet, right? When they were trying to get us to vote and we're going to use that money. We're going to put it toward taxes, and we have it, and we get it every year. They give us a $25 million amount every year. It's like payment in lieu of taxes because they don't pay taxes. And then they give us this 2.4 million of money each year that's supposed to go back out to community service. We haven't been able to touch that yet, and now it's held up because they put it in the wrong account, and we got to get some rule from the state to use that money. So it's like 9,400,000 that we have just sitting there doing nothing. We haven't used any of the MGM money to reduce taxes yet. So when they say we're not going to have it and it'll be a balloon payment next year, the balloon payment, they're saying, so if we don't have this money, the decrease from the 500,000 that you would have been paying as an increase to the 194,000, we're going to have to pay that next year because we're not going to have this money to offset or reduce the tax bill next year. We're not going to have it. But then they say, oh, but property values are going down. So property values are going down. That means we're not going to pay the same amount on the bill because they're up right now. When it go down, you pay less, right? That just makes common sense to everybody. I don't think that's really hard to understand. So they can't have it both ways. We're either going to have this huge balloon payment and property values are going to stay the same, or property values are going to go down. And even with the balloon payment, we will still pay less than the 500 average that they're talking about. So I know it's a lot to take in, guys. And if you don't really know this stuff or understand it, it's a lot to take in. But I'm just trying to like give you a tip of the iceberg on how the conversations go in the city council meeting. This is what we talk about in the city council meeting. When they say that, I think this is unprecedented that the mayor put 10 million. It is because we haven't had it to put 10 million in the past. It's unprecedented.
Right.
But we have it now and we could do more. We could do a lot more, actually. We could have brought the average tax bill increase to 0. And if I was the mayor or Councilor Hurst was the mayor, I think that that's what would have happened.
Okay. So I'm still trying to understand why only 3 out of the 13 councilors felt the need to support this in terms, as opposed to, investigating a little bit further, exploring other options to help residents. As the mayor talked about, we are in the middle of inflation.
Well,
we're broke. A lot of us are broke.
Yeah.
A
lot of us.
So when you talk about a tax increase for FY23, it's like, what's the expected outcome? Is there going to be any resolution for residents? If I'm not mistaken, I think he's increased taxes consistently for the last 8 years. Or
8
am
years.
I wrong?
8 years we have had a tax increase to our tax bill.
8 years straight.
8 years straight. On average, so if we're going back to the average number, that's a $1,062 increase over the last 8 years. And that's on average. That's on the low end.
Okay.
So those folks are on the high end. They probably seeing a $2,000 to $3,000 increase over the last 8 years on the high end.
Let's see. Patrice Cotto said, did the city council approve the mayor's plan? And if so, why? I believe she was just explaining that. What was the justification for voting in favor of that?
So I can't speak for any of those counselors because I voted no. I did not vote for the mayor's tax factor. I actually proposed a new tax factor because he already said no, he wasn't going to give more free cash to reduce the tax rate. So I proposed a tax factor that would give our residents more of a relief, probably like $64, $60 more of a relief. Okay. But it was a tax factor that was fair, that gave the residents of the city of Springfield a $1.97 decrease from last year's rate that they were paying, and commercial $1.98 reduction of the tax rate that they were paying last year. The mayor gave only the residents $1.77. I would have gave 20 cents more. Okay. And he gave the commercial $2.64 of a decrease. Now he gave the businesses who the owners don't live here, most of them, right, who, yes, they create jobs and do all these wonderful things, but sometimes they own like nice big buildings like this and they live in another part of the state, right, and they rent it out. And so he gave them more of a decrease so they can keep money in their pocket for their communities.
Not to mention 5 o'clock in the evening, 4:30, 5 o'clock, you see everybody driving out of town.
They're driving out.
So we're giving extra benefits or extra preference to the business community.
Yes.
When the vast majority of them only hire residents from outside the city.
Correct.
So not only do we now have a displaced tax base, mm-hmm, we're kind of feeding in and supporting that system with our dollars exiting the city every day.
But this isn't anything different than he's been doing. He's been giving more relief to businesses overall, historically, than he gives to the residents of the city of Springfield. That's just something I want to throw out there for y'all so you guys can start being aware of that. Look at what he does for the businesses. Okay. He gives them, he just gave the Pignellis and Wynn 6.5 million. But even before that, they had already got, I think, like 2.4 million for the demolition of the Elm Street project. Wow. So he gave them another 6.5 million, yet he doesn't want to increase what he's given as a tax breaks to the residents of the city of Springfield. None of that balances out for me.
Was there any conversation around the trash fee? in terms of offering relief for residents. That extra $75 to $80 is significant.
It is. It's the $90 that we pay, or
Is
the
it 90
$75.
now?
It is 90.
I
And
just pay it. I don't even.
yeah,
I don't even
you got to
think now.
pay it, right? Or you could
Right.
get a lien or something on your property or something. But the $90 for people that's over 65. If you're 65 and older, there is a relief, and you pay $75.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm almost there. Thank
the
God.
the trash fee, we didn't really get into the trash fee that much, but
Okay.
you asked me a question about the other counselors, and I would encourage residents to ask them. Counselor Hurst, Counselor Govan, and myself all voted no, because we said folks can't afford it.
Right.
They can't afford it when they got to pay so much more for food just to eat, just to survive.
With a $67 million surplus, does the city need to increase taxes?
No. With the 27 million, that had nothing to do with the Eversource. They didn't need to. So that means they're over budgeting each year. If we have this grand amount, if we have 27 million of free cash,
Yep.
Right? So this is when the property tax rate is really set during budget season. And I need everybody to understand this, because budget season starts about February and goes to about June.
Okay.
So what they do is say, okay, here's all of our expenses. Now we got to make sure we get the revenue in to cover these expenses. And so they say, in order to do that, we can pull money from this grant. The state's going to give us this. We're going to get all these funding sources in to cover those expenses. But if those revenue sources don't cover it, then this is how much we need to collect in property tax. So that's what your increase is based on, the property tax that they build into the budget. And they say, we have to collect this amount. So when it comes time to set the tax rate, the amount is already set that we have to collect.
Okay.
Now we got to pick a rate to make sure that we collect this amount.
Okay.
Okay. So during budget season, and I've been saying that, and I've been telling the counselors that we need to look at the budget. How can we trim the property tax number? Now, we don't approve the revenue side. We only approve the expenditure side. But if we cut expenditures, that means we can cut what we need to bring in for revenue. Right.
Right.
So they're saying, oh, we need to increase property taxes by, let's say, 27 million. But then at the end of the year, we got $27 million surplus that we didn't spend. So all these fake expenses that you guys put in there, we didn't even spend it on it. Now we got a surplus, and we're going to still increase property taxes next year. That's not good budgeting.
And I'm still at a loss for why the other 10 counselors seen it, especially those who represent some of the poor neighborhoods.
Again, I can't speak for any
I
of my
know you can't. I know
colleagues.
you can't. And it's not even a question. It's
It's a facetious question.
it is. It's like Councilor Mike Fenton said, he's in support of the financial order, said it's an outstanding $10 million of taxpayer relief. It's unprecedented. He didn't think that the 10 million was, he didn't think that the 10 million, I do think that the 10 million is appropriate, which is what he said. And I wouldn't characterize it as an aggressive figure.
Can I just say one more thing?
I'm listening.
They always talk about, we don't want to go back to the financial control board time, right? We don't want to go back to, now I started working in the city the year after they went into the financial control board, right? But if you guys think about who was on the council, Mayor Sarno was on there.
Yeah, he was.
City councilors have the fiscal responsibility. They're supposed to have the fiscal oversight of what's happening with the finances in the city of Springfield. That's why as finance chair, I look at things through with a fine tooth comb.
Okay.
Because when things go wrong, we're supposed to be the ones to catch it. We have the fiscal responsibility. So 2 years prior to the financial control board coming in, Mayor Sarno had been on the city councilor for some time. He'd been on the city council. So we can't keep looking at personalities. We got to keep looking at track records and traits of what's happening. If he was on the city council right before it went into the financial control board, they was mismanaging funds back then under his watch, and the city councilors wasn't catching it.
Okay.
They wasn't catching it. And that's just the fact. But that's their responsibility. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the city of Springfield to make sure the funds and the property tax and the taxpayers' money is not spent and mismanaged. And under his watch, that didn't happen.
What can residents do? I mean, aside from read the paper and just, look at the headline, Mass Live seems to support anything that they put out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if if it's in the paper, if it's on Mass Live, how do you argue with it? How do you fight with City Hall? How do you fight the bureaucracy? What can residents do? I know this isn't, we're walking into an election year, and this is not a campaign program. We're not here to advocate, endorse, or push any particular candidate. But when we talk up, there's the electoral politics, and then there's the political process itself, which should be facilitated by constituents, making sure that their voice is heard, making sure that anything that they're pushing for is advocated for and put into motion. Correct?
Correct.
When we look at this, we're going to 9 years of tax increases, right?
No, this is the 8th year.
This will be the 8th year.
This is the 8th year.
Okay, well, looking at 8 consecutive years. What should residents be doing? Should they be showing up at city council meetings? Should they be writing letters to, the mayor's administration? Should they be contacting TJ Plant? What can people do? Because a lot of folks, you feel like after you vote, I just feel powerless. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand what they're talking about. But in the meantime, this is impacting my budget.
Right. They can do all of the above. They can ask TJ Plant. Like, everyone that works for the city works for you. They're all paid off of the taxpayer dollars.
Right.
So whenever you have a question on anything, you have the right to call any staff in any city department. You have the right to question Mayor Sarno. You have the right to question city councilors.
Right.
And we just got to educate ourselves. I remember when I wasn't too involved in politics, and I didn't know all of these things either. Okay. And I didn't really get involved until I started working for the city. And I'm like, hold up, what they're doing with this money ain't fair. I never heard about this in my community, in the Black community. I never heard about this. I never heard the Latino folks coming and running and telling me about these programs, but their programs are here, yet they're not coming to our communities. And I remember keep saying that in different community meetings, and they were like, well, we got to do something about that. We got to get somebody in there who's going to educate us on it. And they was like, somebody got to run. And that's why I ran. I said, I'll do it. And I ran, because we got to start educating ourselves. But I'm so proud of some of the residents this year. This is the most that I have actually seen residents wanting to educate themselves. Right. I'm proud of shows like yours that bring the real information to the community, and other shows like Keaton Show and Bishop Swan, and I can't understand some of the Latino shows, so I don't know what they're saying, but I'm pretty sure that they're also educating the constituencies on what's happening. So I'm just really proud of what's happening. Like, the awareness is coming. And what I would invite residents to do is, if you do know something, share it with your family. Educate them. Let's keep educating each other, and then just have this bouncing ball of education going around. And then if someone asks you a question and you're stuck, people will call me off the chain. Right. And if I can't get back to them, or I forget, then they might say some things about me. But we got it's 13 of us. 13, yeah. And you should know who your ward counselors are. You should educate yourselves on that, who your ward counselors are. And then there's 5 at-large counselors, and there is 7. All right, with my numbers, 8 ward counselors. Yeah, because it's 8 wards. 8 ward counselors, 5 at-large counselors. So make sure you know who your ward counselor is, and get the information you need from them. And
can I just jump in?
Sure.
You can have gatherings of 10 to 15 people and invite your ward counselor to attend and have these same conversations. I was on the show earlier with Andrew Keaton, and we talked about that. And it's kind of like, I kind of liken an elected official to an attorney. Mm-hmm. Why would you hire an attorney who's supposed to represent you if you're never going to talk to him? If you're not going to give him instructions on what you want, or what you want to accomplish? What is the purpose of hiring an attorney? For an elected official, what is the purpose for voting for someone if they're not going to represent you?
Right.
If you had an attorney that didn't do due diligence, you would terminate his services, and you'd hire his or her, or hire someone new, correct? Mm-hmm. With elected officials, it's the same. Look at your city council president. Ask him what he's been doing. Ask him where he stands on this issue. People come, they'll offer you photo opportunities. They'll get in a picture with your grandmother. You'll be so proud and happy.
They'll give you proclamations.
All that stuff. And let me tell you, proclamations are the cheesiest thing you can ever get. Please don't be overjoyed by a proclamation. We would just go print those up, and I can do those. I can still write a proclamation blind, not looking at the keyboard, and just write, because it was always the same thing. 500 people who get the same day that they celebrate. So the city doesn't stop because of your proclamation. I just want to throw that out there. And I know you're a city councilor, no disrespect to the city council, State reps do it. Congressman Neal, they all do it. So when you go to vote, don't vote based on the fact that somebody in your family got a proclamation, or someone was able to take a picture with, City Councilor Tracy Whitfield or Jesse Letterman or the mayor. Don't vote on those grounds. What you need to do is assess their performance, and then you determine whether or not you're going to put them back in office. We engage in personality politics, and we don't really get into the process piece of politics. So,
any more questions?
Yeah, questions.
We got one from the audience.
Okay, let's open it up.
So this is a question and a comment, and both of you alluded to this. And as a homeowner for the city of Springfield, I think it's very important that they start gathering right now and asking these other city councilors why they made that decision. And I know you had mentioned, Joe had mentioned before about.
I want to make sure everybody out there hears you. If you don't mind.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure everybody hears what you say.
Okay.
It doesn't go that far.
All right, and where they can go from. So my main concern really is the seniors, because you talked about it. Most of these seniors are on fixed incomes. All right. Everything is going up. You go to grocery stores, you can't even spend it's almost $300-400. They don't have that excess money to spend when it comes to seniors. What can we do besides vote the mayor out of office or vote some of these people out of office? What are some of the things that are put in place that the city council is working on right now to help the seniors? Because that's my concern. And also, a lot of these seniors right now, people have passed on, people have deceased. They're living in these houses by themselves. They can't afford this. What are some of the things being put in place to help the seniors?
Well, as far as the taxes go, there are programs that if you're 65, you can get you could qualify for a reduction of $1,000 off of your tax bill. Now that's great. It's a great program, but you have those seniors that are just over the income threshold that can't get that $1,000. Now there's another program. Now all these programs that the mayor touts that he brought are Commonwealth program. They're state programs. And most of the programs that are adopted in the city of Springfield are adopted throughout a bunch of different communities in the city of Springfield. But there are others that are not as common and not as popular that have not been adopted. There's one for seniors that's a hardship senior program where they can apply for this hardship program and their tax bill would go wouldn't have to be paid until someone passes away or until they sell the home, and then they would pay the tax bill. There will be a lien on the property just to make sure that the city get that money back.
How is that helping?
Well, they don't. If you don't have to pay it now, and then at your death, and then or if you sell the property, you get funds from the sale, and you're able to pay that property tax. So that's just deferring the payment. Like a deferred payment would help the seniors if you don't have it to pay it now, but they're not taking your money. You're not taking your house in tax title foreclosure. So that's how it helps, because otherwise, if you can't afford to pay it, they're just going to take your house.
And I want to add this last comment. I know somebody actually on the show when we talked about earlier, I know somebody who is facing this is really concerned about, their taxes going up in there. I mean, the person is like 80 something years old. The question is, they call downtown and nobody can seem to give them an answer. I see a lot of that happening when people call downtown. There's no answers, or they don't know where to turn to, or we can't help you.
Well, they should be able to just go right to the assessor's department. The assessors will be able to tell them right away. And we have a department for that. So it shouldn't be 311 might not know if you call 311. If you call the mayor's office, the mayoral aide may not know. Well, Daryl would have known, but the mayoral aides may not know. But they have a whole department that can tell you how to apply for the exemptions, right? And the exemptions, some people qualify, some people don't. So we got to do better for those that don't. You have folks just over the threshold, and they're still, in my book, considered low income, but based on poverty guidelines, they're not. And so they're not going to get the help and the assistance that they need. So we've been asking, can we use funds to create a program to help pay the bills? So now they're thinking about programs that can help with other bills, help pay other bills. And so that will free up the money to maybe pay their property tax. because it's so strict on state guidelines on what you can do to help with property tax that, you know, we have to be creative. And I think good form of government is creative, right? We got $67 million. Let's get creative.
And I thank you for those comments. And we got to keep standing by Councilwoman Whitfield, because you're fighting the good fight. We need to stand behind you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're at the 40-minute mark. We
Okay.
said we'd be here for 45.
Okay.
So is there anything else? If you're online, if you're watching via Facebook or YouTube, if you have any questions, please post your questions. We can take this time now to answer any questions you may have. Again, if you're watching via Facebook, YouTube, we have a considerable number of people watching. Just if you have questions, please ask. This is the time to ask. This is the reason why we're doing this. And Council, I'm so glad you came out. I appreciate you.
I'm glad for you having me. You always have me and let me express my voice. Sometimes it's hard to get on other shows because they don't want Tracy Whitfield to be Tracy Whitfield. They don't want me to tell the truth, right? But I'm going to always tell the truth. And, you know, if it's wrong, it's just wrong.
Right.
If it's wrong, it's just wrong. And I think that sometimes, like you said earlier, personality get in the way. And I think that misguided loyalty is getting away.
Absolutely.
So we can't say, well, I like Mayor Sarno and he's my friend, so I'm going to vote for what's wrong. That doesn't make any sense. I have a lot of friends that I don't agree with, and I'll tell them, but we still friends at the end of the day. And if you have a friend that's not going to talk to you, because Mayor Sarno used to be my friend, but now he doesn't communicate with me at all because I don't agree with everything he say. Well, that's not a friend that I want in my circle. Because I should be able to tell you the truth. We should be able to agree to disagree. And then the next day go and have a cup of coffee or go to the movies together. You know, that's what friendship is. Friendship is not blackmail situation. Friendship doesn't mean misguided loyalty mean if you going to jump off this cliff, I'm going to jump with you because you're my friend. That doesn't make logical sense to me. So I'm going to encourage counselors that are doing that to stop it. Stop that. Look at the issues. Look what's going to help your constituency that votes you in. You don't have to like me at the end of the day, but you're going to vote against Tracy Whitfield and do wrong by the constituency, or you're going to do right by the constituency and maybe agree with Tracy Whitfield.
Right. You got to do the right thing.
Got to do the right thing.
This life is all about sacrifice. If you're going to be involved in the political process, if you decide you want to be a community organizer, community spokesperson, activist, whatever the case may be, the minute you step up to that plate, it's all about accountability. And anyone who feels they're in a real position of leadership, they should be open to accountability. When it gets to the point where, as an elected official, you're so afraid of another elected official that you don't do due diligence and you don't react in the right way or make the right decision, that's a problem. Another question. What is this? I guess there was something said about the police department, and there's something else you guys voted on. Do you want to expound on that, or you want to save that for another day?
Nope. Let me put it out there right now.
Okay.
You know, I like to put it out there. So we went into executive session and we had a conversation. So we came back out and we had to vote on giving money for another police misconduct case.
Okay.
Right. So I laughed. You want me to get more money for police doing wrong? Now the mayor stands by the men in blue all day long, even if they doing right and wrong. The men in blue, I'm not saying the men in blue don't work hard. I got police officers in my family. I'm the co-chair of the Mason Square C3. I work with police officers on a weekly basis. I love what the good officers do for us in the city of Springfield, the good ones. Now we know that there's good and bad in everything, but the bad ones are out here beating up my cousins. And we got to pay for the damage that they're doing.
Right.
We got to pay for that. When I say we, I mean all of you, taxpayers. And so they asked us to approve funds to pay a police misconduct case. So in executive session, we get all the details about the police misconduct case, what happened, and we want to settle these cases so we don't have to pay more if we go to trial. That's the reason that they like to settle, so we don't go to trial and pay more money.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not accepting, I'm not going to vote yes on another police misconduct case until we do right by property tax. Do right by property tax, give the residents relief, And then I will support paying police misconduct cases. But make sure those police are going to the training they're supposed to go to. Make sure they're getting certified or decertified, since that's now a state law. Make sure that all these things are happening, because they drag their feet when it comes to the DOJ report, and they drag their feet on police training, and they drag their feet on certain things when it comes to the police department. So they're allowing, and I'm going to say allowing because they're encouraging it, actually, because what you allow, you encourage.
Correct.
So they're allowing these police to misconduct and do these wrong things to people, and they want us to vote to use taxpayers' money to pay for the wrongs of these particular officers.
Right.
So I said, I'm not voting for that. And the only ones that voted no on that transfer from free cash, same money that we talking about, or reserves that come from free cash, was me and Councilor Hurst.
And how much money was that?
I think the whole financial order was $165,000, but over the past 10 years, it's been over $9 million. So I'm asking them to go back 15 years, and I'm pretty sure it will be closer to the 15 million range.
So they spent over $9 million over the past, I guess, throughout the course of this current administration.
Yes, throughout the course.
But the residents should be happy and thankful
That they're
about 10 million
Yeah.
being set aside for tax relief.
Yes.
Huh.
So I laughed
Okay.
right in the meeting. I said, that doesn't make logical sense to me.
Right.
You want to go ahead and keep paying these police misconduct cases. We paid, I think, $2 million last year and this and that, but you don't want to do the right thing and give more relief to the taxpayers whose money you're actually using to pay this police misconduct case.
Right.
Maybe that's why it has to go up every year, because we got to make sure we have that cushion to pay police misconduct cases. So now we got to increase y'all property taxes.
Last question. Last question from Patrice Cotto. Are the council meetings in person? When are they held? And do you need to register in advance to attend?
So you need to register in advance for public speak out. So we usually meet every Monday. They are in person and they're virtual, so you can attend either way. Right now, since COVID, they were virtual during COVID. Now they're hybrid, so you can register either way. You can ask for the link to attend the meetings,
Okay.
or you can go in person. To speak out on issues, it's called public speak out. That's usually at 6:30 the
Okay.
Mondays before our meetings.
What exactly is the speak out? What can people do during the speak out? Can you
That
just talk
public
about that a little
speak
bit?
out, so there's 6:30 on Mondays that we have meetings. We usually don't have meetings on the second Monday of the month, but every other Monday of the month, we have city council meetings.
Okay.
So you can sign up for public speak out to speak on any topic that you want. Any topic that you want city councilors to hear, any topic that you might want us to get back in touch with you, you can come to public speak out and speak on anything that's important to you. Now, school committee has the same thing. So if it's an issue with the school side, I would suggest that you go to the school committee public speak outs. But if it's city related, I mean, you can come speak to the schools, but I'm saying I think that would be a better avenue for you. But if it's city related, something that we should hear, then you should come to the city council public speak outs.
Someone just sent me a text. They're asking, can you vote? Can you write a petition to remove a counselor from office if you don't believe they're doing due diligence?
Can you write it? Now, that is something I will have to research, because I don't know the answer to that. So I don't want to just speak, just speak to speak. But I don't know if you can write a petition. Do you know, Daryl?
I do. Contact the elections office. They can give you the exact process. When we're dealing with Victoria Row and the Historical Commission, we were going to get, I think it's 400 signatures to remove City Councilor Henry Twiggs at the time.
Okay.
So I got to remember, I don't recall what the exact process was, but I will advise you, if you're still watching, to make sure you contact the elections office and find out.
There you go.
There's a process.
There you go.
There's a process. So, I mean, again, if someone is supposed to represent you and that's their job, and that's what you pretty much, when you voted, that's what you hired them to do, then there has to be a way, aside from during the course of the regular election, to remove, to terminate their services and move forward with someone else. Khadija Tuit says $9 million in ongoing policeman conduct. Imagine what those funds could have been done. What could have been done with those funds for the citizens?
Well, we could have reduced the property tax by that. We could have used that $9 million right there and gave you all a 0 increase in your property tax bill. But so many other things need to be done. We got streets that need to be paved, and we got
my street needs to be paved.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I wish my street was paved.
We got so many things. We got some type of youth services that we could bring in. We got mental health illness out
we
the
have
yin
a number
yang.
of micro and small businesses that are just starting up and developing. We can utilize those funds
that
fund and help to build the residents business community. Just Aging Different says citizens need to know/learn when their ward council meet and attend those meetings so they are aware of what else is happening within their ward, have a voice in your ward, and have a voice in your city.
I agree.
It really requires that residents get involved, correct?
Yeah. With the neighborhood councils, go to springfield-mass.gov, springfield-mass.gov, and anything you want to find out, put it in the search field, and it'll bring you to the right page. So if you want to say, when does neighborhood council meetings meet, just type in neighborhood council. It'll bring you to the page, and you'll see when your area hold neighborhood councils, because you have a few people speaking for the masses in your neighborhood. Right. And it's not really diverse or equitable to do that. You can't have 6 or 7 people that don't talk to the whole ward, speak for the whole ward. But they're the ones who's showing up, and they're the ones who are making the decision for all of you.
And that's a little tricky. The McKnight Neighborhood Council at one point was really interesting. Our current city council president, when he was the youth president for the McKnight Neighborhood Council, I remember when he circulated a petition to have the McKnight neighborhood removed from the Mason Square block. Oh, I'll never forget that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was City Councilor Jesse Letterman. So when you talk about small blocks of people attempting to determine what happens with the larger community, it's concerning. And when you go to, like, when I was with the mayor's office and I go to some of these meetings, and you'd have people speaking on behalf of and you'd have people who live in the neighborhoods or within that district who have no idea that these meetings are taking place, or that people are speaking on their behalf. So folks really have to get out there and get involved in this process, because you have no idea who's leading you, and a lot of them are not working in your best interest. I'm just saying, that's just coming from me, that's not from her. So check your city councilors. With that being said, is there anything else you want to offer? There's no more questions online.
I'm just thankful for those who took the time to watch today and educate yourselves and to learn. Check my phone. And to learn. I'm very happy that we're getting involved, and I see a lot of people that do read. I see a lot of people that do read my comments and things. Thank you for sharing. Sometimes they will be a little heated because I'm upset. And I thank those who are calling and trying to find out. So let's just keep doing more of this. Whenever you want me to come on, and I know Councilor Hurst would have been here, but he had family obligations. But we are really ready and open to just share the information with the people. So next year, when it's time to vote for city councilors, and that is next year, and the mayor's race is next year in 2023, November 2023, you have all the information you need to make informed decisions. Don't make it like some councilors do based on misguided loyalties. Make it based on the facts. Absolutely. And so that's all I have to say. Oh, and then the police, the city is seeking comments the police department is seeking comments on the proposal of use of force policy that the DOJ brought in. So make sure you go to the city's website and comment, read the use of force policy for the police department, and make comments. If something don't seem right to you, you make sure you make that comment, because me and Councilor Hurst and other councilor, and I think Councilor Govan, we went to the hearing and spoke to the judge, and we said, this isn't right. This isn't right. What they're doing with the police commission isn't right. There's no rules or laws in the police commission. You guys can go to those hearings too.
Well, let me ask a question, since you brought up the DOJ report. Has there been any more roundtable conversations with the community on that DOJ report? I know the last one they had, if I'm not mistaken, was December 9th of 2020. Has there been another one?
there actually has. There've been like 3. And I know that I posted them on my page. There was one with attorney Rachel Rollins last month. And there was a hearings one where,
and that was through
Zoom.
Through the Zoom, and who organized that?
Her office. It was her office that organized it.
But has the mayor addressed it publicly since?
I never even seen him address it publicly.
Well, they were supposed to when they had the roundtable conversations. That's what I was talking about.
Oh,
yeah.
the roundtable conversations that he doesn't reply, which
those
or the ones that he doesn't come to.
So I'm just kind of curious.
Oh,
Do you think it would be possible for us to have a conversation like this with someone from the administration and the police department to talk about the DOJ?
I think if enough citizens request it, then that will put pressure on the mayor to hold it. But it has to be an open forum where they're actually going to dialogue. It can't be these forums where they say, okay, they pop you into the meeting, you say what you got to say, and then they pop you back out.
Well, I'm thinking community-led conversations.
I think, yeah,
And
let's invite them.
Not out of his office or out of the police department.
It's up to them if they're going to show up.
Okay.
You can always invite them to anything. I know Pioneer Valley Project and NAACP
Kudos
invites
to
them.
Tara Parish. They
Yeah,
do good
Tara
work.
Parish and Bishop Swan. They invite them all the time and they wasn't showing up. So we can invite them all we want.
Mm-hmm.
Will they show up? That's another thing that you got to look at. If someone don't want to show up and talk to you in your face publicly, then they're hiding something. Invite me. I'll be there if I can. If I don't have another family obligation or something, I'll be there.
A conversation that's worth having.
I think so. I think that should be the next one. You jump on it while it's hot.
Okay.
And then I will let you guys know who's better equipped than me. Now, on the financial side, I'm your person, but there's folks better equipped than me to answer the questions when it comes to the DOJ report and answer questions like that.
Okay.
Eternal Rachel Rollins, if you guys want to get her in the room,
We would like to.
oh, you will really love it because she is the truth.
All right. So with that being stated, Patrice Carter said the Pine Point Council meeting is on December 13th at 7 p.m. I'm not sure. Can you share where that meeting takes place? If it's virtual, just list it. Khadija Tuat said, thank you so much for the valuable information.
Welcome.
Patrice also said, thank you for sharing all this information. I hope you do more of these in the future. We definitely plan to.
Yep.
It's that time. Dallas Clark, shout out to Dallas Clark. He does great work. He
Dallas,
says, thank
he
you,
does.
Tracy, for the good work you do, I guess. And there's a lot of people saying thank you for the good work. And let's keep this up. Thank you so much for coming out, Councilor Whitfield. We deeply appreciate you. Teresa Cooper Gordon says, continue to drop the information to the community. Keep building.
Thank you. And come in public sometimes so we can like chat it up after the meeting. That's when you really get some of the deep conversations going after. We had some deep conversations before. We're going to have a few minutes after. So come in person sometimes and let's get to know each other better.
Patrice says the Pine Point Council meeting takes place at the Pine Point Library. And that, again, is on December 13th. And I think she said 7 p.m. So in the comments, just, get out there, get involved in your neighborhood. Yeah, 7 p.m. Get out there, get involved, and keep paying attention. We're planning on starting a report card for our elected officials so we can keep track of what they're doing, because we get all the promises, we get all the hellos, the how's your grandmother, how's your little sister, how's your cousin, but we don't get the facts in terms of what's taking place throughout the course of the City Hall Business Day. With that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you. And thank you, Councilor.
Thank you for having me.
Maximum impact endgame.
Congress shall now vote for approval of H.R. 8791, the Homeland Terrorism Preparedness Bill. Said bill requests emergency response funding up to and including, I'm sorry, this section is classified, dollars to prepare for a national level terrorist attack and or attack from classified. Funding for first responder personnel and vehicles.